Right, so we're just going to get right into it and we'll look at the agenda. So this is what we have planned. That short introduction, what we're into right now. We're just going to go through some slides. After that, we're going to start the demo inside the application. And then we have a game. We have a game, right? So stick around.
Mark, we're not seeing your screen.
You did not see my screen? Just a minute.
Yeah, that's fine. Take your time.
Presenting, reshare.
Yeah, it just came off. It was on and then it just came off.
Yeah. You should be seeing the slides up.
Yeah, so yeah, perfect. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Right, okay. So let's go on. Right, so we're talking about the agenda. For anyone who didn't see the agenda, this is what we have planned. From here on, we get into some discussion points about Business Central Payroll. Right, so 4 main reasons our customers come to us. They're always looking for something to advance their situation, right? So the typical things we've noticed with most people who come to Davyn for any solution is aging technology. We're on GP, we're on some past older platform that's going to end of life or it's no longer supported. We need a way forward, right? Also, the manual processes. We have an Excel sheet for something. There's an Excel sheet somewhere for something that does something, right? We want to get rid of that. Scatter data, again, those multiple data points, Excel, maybe you have an access database doing something. We want to have one unified source of information. And an all-in-one solution. Business Central does everything an ERP does. It's full ERP, as well as now we're going to allow payroll in the environment. So we're really going to offer a fully complete all-in-one solution. So Business Central, what is our BC Payroll? Our BC Payroll is written locally, owned by us, and is run inside Business Central. It's our own product. We have full access to the source code. We wrote the 900,000, probably at this point, 1 million lines of code for this extension fully in-house. This allows us the ability to modify any feature or add new ones, modify reports, modify screens, all of those things we can cover. It runs natively in Business Central. It's installed into BC itself. You don't go to a different link, to a different screen, to a different application. It all happens here. It's on a proven platform. It really is. Business Central has been around for 10 plus years, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of implementations across the globe. BC is around to stay. Your payroll, your config, your rules, right? This is all about you. You want reports that you can submit to your financial team, to your management team, we can provide that. We can build reports or modify existing reports to match your exact needs. Rules that match your policies, earnings, deductions, etc., the way that you want it, the way that you want your payroll set up, your pay cycles, your pay runs, it's all for you. New modules whenever you need them. BC Payroll is not a stagnant piece of software. It is constantly updating. We added new features up to this morning. I'm stuck in testing things this morning again. New features were added. So let's talk about some of the key points, right? Like why we really want to move to Business Central. BC Payroll, sorry. So all of these items here, all these items we cover, right? It's flexible. Again, it's all about you. You can set it up your way. Multi-region support, we work with a couple of regions in the Caribbean right now for clients who have gone ahead with us. So we have those regions already installed, Trinidad, Turks and Caicos, and a couple others of the island chain. Multi-currency, you can rate your employees in one currency and pay them in another, and the exchange rates and that calculation happens within Business Central. Full GL integration. From the time you hit post on your pay run, your GL, all your salary expenses, all your payables is automatically updated. A new recent development is that if you are a lover of a subledger, as in you want everything to go through AP, we can generate those invoices for you. So we can generate an AP invoice for your BIR payment, for your NIS payment, for anything that you want to go through the AP module. We can have an invoice push for those transactions. Access control. So aside from the already very strong Business Central access control in place, the permission sets, user setup, all those things already in place. We've added layers on top of that for BC Payroll because it's payroll, it must be secure. Additional payroll-specific workflows are in place to handle this. And time clock access. We can integrate with time clocks. We can import time data via files. We can look at network locations to pick up your time data. So you would really have to manually import your time entries, time that has been worked, etc. Right, so with these little talking points out of the way, let's get into the demo. Yeah, I'm just gonna take off my camera not to distract you, and we'll show the solution. Okay, I hope everyone is seeing my screen. This is
Yes,
Business
we are.
Central Payroll. This is where users who are marked in a specific role center for payroll, this is your landing page. This is what you see when you open the application. So you come here, all of these insights, they relate to real data. You can drill into it. So for example, it'll give you all the quantities, the values that populate these figures on these charts here. So you can do that for this entire dashboard. And the dashboard goes quite a bit down. We have a couple options and screens well in here. And of course, all of this is you can toggle on, toggle off, you can move around, you can add, etc. This is our landing page. So for phase one of this presentation, we're going to go through the actual processing of payroll, that processing step. So from here, I am going to search for a pay batch. A pay batch is what we call a pay run in this environment, right? It's all known as pay batches. So I'm going to go to a pay batch. I have some existing here. That's fine. This doesn't affect my posted data. This is unposted data, right? From here, I'm going to go to create batch. And this batch template screen, I can really define what groups of employees or what teams I want to pay. So let's look at some of the filters here, right? So let's talk about the rule set. So the rule set, this goes back to our talking point about being multi-region accessible. So as I said, we have some islands of the chain. Once this is installed and this is hard-coded, the user aren't able to modify this, we can have different regions come in, right? So we've initially started with Trinidad. We had clients in these different islands and we built out their specific statutories, their legal requirements have been built out in the application. So if you don't see a country here or a specific location that you would like to have payroll for, it's not that it's not available, it's just it hasn't been built as yet. Yeah, and we can fully do that for you, as we have done for these clients in the past. So rule set, this will define our payroll calculation method. So by setting Trinidad, it's going to look for NIB, health surcharge, PAYE. By setting the different regions, it's going to look for those specific deductions for that region. Like for example, Turks and Caicos, they have something called NHIP, National Health Insurance Plan, I think. So it will use those tables to run the calculation and it won't be looking for Trinidad specific NIS, health surcharge, etc. So that's what the rule set does. This is our multi-region functionality here. Right, a pay type period. So a pay type period speaks to your pay cycle, weekly, fortnightly, monthly, whatever type of cycle you have, bi-weekly, bi-monthly. We can create it, prepare the setups behind that to define how many hours of work, etc. When the week starts. So if you have an odd period that starts on Wednesday of 1 week, ends on Tuesday of the following, we can set those specifics up and show you what your entire pay run for the year is going to look like when these dates cut off, right? Based off of the pay type period. Right, we define start and end dates. When is this payroll for? That's straightforward. You can define when things are posted and paid as well. So if you run your payroll on the Wednesday of a week, you can say that, okay, I want this to be paid by the end of the week and set those dates in. We have some more filters. You can specify specific departments in the organization you'd like to pay if you separate it that way. You can specify specific positions in the department, in the organization to pay. So maybe you have a class of employee that you want to pay only. You can do that as well as you can define individual employees or groups of employees or ranges of employees to pay as well. Yeah, all right. So that's what our template. So based off of that criteria, it will create the batch. So I'm just going to say, okay. My batch has been created. So now it uses the same data that I set on that template, right? It uses the same rule set for Trinidad, the same pay type period, and my same date range. So based off of this criteria now, these employees have been brought in. These employees match the criteria for the filters that I have set. So they have been imported into this pay run, right? So from here now, you're going to see that all of my totals, they're all zero. Nothing has been calculated as yet. At this point, we've only set up the batch. We have set up the pay run, right? So from here, I'm just going to go from home, click on release, and that's going to run my calculation. So we get a little pop-up here, working on it. This just details which employee is on, what step in the process is done, the percent complete. And once that is done now, we get this little summary that how long the process took. So in this example, for our 3 employees, it took 1.5 seconds per employee, a total time of 4.4 seconds. Of course, this is just 3 employees. Your payroll is never going to be that. From our existing clients, we have a client that has about 500 employees on a weekly run, and they've reported times between 4.5 to 6.5 minutes for that run to process for the 500 employees on a weekly run. So it's weekly stuff, right? That's timesheet stuff and additions, deductions, additional outside of the base. So yes, a lot of stuff going on there. And that took about 6.5 minutes for 500 employees. So just keep that in mind. And to also mention, that's on a test environment. Test environment means you don't get as much resources as your live environment. So you'll be expecting performance to be better in that live space. Yeah, I'm just going to say OK for this calculation. So now you see my totals are populating in here, right? And of course, you can drill down into this to see some more detail on what creates this figure. So for my pay codes, if I drill into this figure, it shows me what amounts make up my total pay codes values by each individual code here. Yeah, so for example, my monthly salary, if I wanted to see, well, okay, what contributes to this figure, I'm just going to drill into this 90,000 figure here. So then this now further gives me a list of all the individual employees here who contribute to this figure, as well as the individual amounts that they have been paid, right? And we can do this for each section, each subsection. You can just drill in, take a quick look. And of course, this is Business Central. You can send everything to Excel with the share button. You can send all this data out if you want to look at it in a different method. Right, so those are just totals, of course. We want to see the individual amounts on these employees, what constitutes what, right? So from this employee, I'll just take this first one as an example. I can go to the show final lines. On the final lines here, this shows all of the pay codes that pull for this employee. So for example, they pulled monthly salary, there are some allowances in place, typical statutory, health charge, NS, PAYE, etc., the benefits and whatever else they may have, right? And as we come across here now, the comments will start to detail if there's a difference in the calculation. So for example, anything that is flat, the salary was flat, the allowances are flat, it doesn't give you a comment to explain how that was calculated. Right, but for things that are based on a calculation, like for every statutory, we get a comment that explains how it arrived at this figure. Yeah. So for example, my health surcharge, my $33, how did we get here? BC Payroll has detected that there are 4 Mondays in this period that we have selected, and it's $8.25 per Monday for this person. So that's how we arrive at the 33. Same thing for NIS. NIS gives a nice little breakdown of what NIS charge per week. So you see the total as well as the employer. Right, for any time there are hours coming in, it will detail how it arrived at this figure. So it takes rate, hours times rate to give you an amount, of course, and this is all shown here on the comments as well as the figures. Yeah, all right, just gonna back off of this page. So that was the final lines for these employees. So at this point here now, my batch has been released, it's been calculated. So here now we can move to what happens in an approval process. Now, so for the demo, approvals are off, of course. I don't need to send this to someone and wait on them. I'm just going to show you what would happen, right? So we have these buttons up here. We have approve, we have lock. So currently, out of the base application, will allow for 2 tiers of approval. So the approve, one person could come in and approve, and you can assign which person can do that. We can have it set up that an email notification goes out. So whenever I request approval, that person will get an email and they would know, hey, come into Business Central and approve a batch. You have something to do. And they would have a button here to either approve or cancel the request, which is currently great because, well, I can't cancel it, right? I just approved it. Whenever these actions are taken, the status is updated. So now the status says approved and has an approved by date here. And it tracks that for every action that happens on the batch. Right, so that was on the approve. And then the second tier of approval now is the lock. So once I click on lock, my lock is now toggled and there's a lock approved here. And the date would modify to update for that. So think of the approve as that approval step within payroll or within that department. So you have a payroll clerk create the pay run, you have a payroll manager or the supervisor above them do the approval, and of course finance mustn't get involved, right? Because we're moving money. So finance can come in and lock the batch. Locking just really says that everything in here is correct. We just not ready to pay it as yet, right? So it's locked. It's locked and final, no changes, but we're not ready to pay. Okay, so after locking the batch, we are now ready to proceed to post the transaction. Yes, so I'm just going to go up here to post. Hit post, say yes. I have some warnings, that's fine. We are now post the batch. So at this point on posting, it says here's posted the GL successfully, which we'll take a look at. So that means that my GL entries have been updated. My salary expenses, my payables have all been updated for my pay run. As well as the batch has been posted, this means that my employee earnings has been updated. All my employees year-to-date information is now updated with this pay run. So I'll say okay. So from here now, BC Payroll is prompting me to make the payments for this pay batch I just created. So I will go to my payroll deposits. I will see my P17, which is the batch I was just working on. It's created all of these deposits for these employees, for these various bank accounts. As you can see, we allow split payment and for the various amounts that they were supposed to get based on the criteria set on the employee deposit. All right, so from here, I can go to bank and I can generate my ACH files. Don't be daunted. We don't only deal with Scotia and FCB. This is just what we have in the test environment that our customers have requested so far. So if you pay from a different bank, if you pay from any bank, once we get the details on how to set up that ACH file, we can create that exact button for you for that one-click extract, right? So I'm just going to go with generate ACH. It says my file has been generated successfully. And I don't know how much value this brings, but just to have a quick look at what that looks like. So let me just stop sharing this for a minute and I'll share my entire screen. Right, okay, so this is our exported CSV file. So as you know, we'll set this up for your bank specifically based on the formats that they need. All right, so I'm gonna say okay. With that done now, my file has been processed. I'm gonna post my payments. Boom, post, say yes. Right, so my payments have been posted. Okay, so that was one step. We saw the unposted batch, we saw the payments going in. So let's see our posted information now. I'm going to go to the posted pay batch. Right, so my posted pay batch, this list now, as opposed to just the pay batch list, this list is your store of payroll data. This is your permanent repository of payroll information. This is every batch, every pay run you've ever run, sits in here and it stays here. You're always able to retrieve any information. You can always go in, take a look. You can always go in, rerun reports. Somebody say they lost their payslip. You can go back into the batch, print or send one over. And let's actually look at that, right? So this is my posted pay batch for the run I ran earlier. And let us go to the emailing of the payslips. So I'm just going to go either from up here, email payslips. Do you want to email for all employees in this batch? I will say no, because I don't think I have email addresses on the other two employees, just on this one. So I can send to an individual as well. I can come down to the lines, click on the three dots, email payslip. And that'll do it for the selected employee, right? So I'll just say yes. So it has been sent to this email address. I will say okay. And I have that email sitting. So based on your setups in Business Central Payroll, you can get a email just like this. You define what you want to show up as the subject of that email. You also define the body of it, what you would like to show up, and it will attach the specific payslip to this email, right? So everything here, the body of the email is defined, the subject is defined in Business Central. You can set that up, right? I'm going to open this payslip now just to show you what our base payslip looks like. And this is our base Business Central payslip. Right, pretty standard, just lists the statutory numbers, the employee ID, the pay period it's for, and the amounts for the current run and the year to date so far. And of course, we have a net salary at the bottom. This document is not final. If you have a payslip that you use, maybe employees are accustomed to it, we can modify this document to match your existing payslip. So there's no shock, I would say, when a new payslip arrives. Yeah. So this is fully customizable. We can fully change this to your needs, however you define it for us. All right, so that was on the pay slip. So I think this is phase one. We did the pay batch. We spoke about the rule sets, the GL, ACH processing, basic emailing. Just take a light pause here. Hey Ed, do we have any questions in the chat for what was shown for the pay batch process, ACH, the basic emailing? Any questions at all?
No questions right now.
All right, excellent. Not sure if excellent, but yes, let's continue. All right, so phase two, we're going to look at the employee information. So we're paying people, right? We've shown the process to pay those people. Let's look at those people now. So let me go to the employees. So employees here, this is your list of all the persons in your organization, all of the employees are on this list. Let's go into one to see what data we accept for these employees. So on the employees, we accept typical contact information, name, address, contact, email, etc. This email is what is used to define what email address the payslip goes to. So that's important if you want to use that payslip emailing. We can define the employment date with the company, not with the job. I'll show that after. Birth date is required, NIS, health charge, etc. Those have age limits, so birth date is required. And in our Davyn additional payroll info, this is where we would store our payroll details now. So the NIB, BIR, any statutory code number that you need, you would store it down here. Keep that information in place. We have some toggles for some other regions that are shown. In different regions, there are different requirements. So it's all set up here and we're showing all regions right now. Otherwise, if you had this set up in Trinidad only, these things wouldn't show, right? So it shows or hides things according to the region that you have in your environment. Going on, let's just mention the customer number. So if you have employees who purchase from you or you sell to those employees, you can link that customer ID to that employee ID so that whenever you have deductions from payroll to pay those invoices, those AR invoices, they will automatically deduct from payroll and apply to the invoice that you have for them in one action. Yeah, so if you have employees who are customers, you can pay their bills and have it paid from the payroll without somebody having to go in and apply payments or modify AR in any way. From payroll, it does it. You don't have to do anything. Yeah, just by assigning a customer number to an employee ID. All right, let's go back up. So we're speaking about the employee. Let's speak about the employee positions. Let's talk about the positions. All right, let's get into positions. The positions represent all of the jobs or all of the roles, in your organization. So for example, you can have any setup, any listing that you like. You can have grades of people if you wish. You can just have positions out. It doesn't matter. Whatever is your structure right now, you can set that up inside here. On each position, we define a lot of defaults on each one, right? So you can define a default department, a default pay period. That would be monthly, fortnightly, or if you do like a board of directors or if you have anything special, any kind of special pay cycle, you can define that here. You can define default monthly salary, and then you can default these pay code groups. So let's talk about the PDBs as we're on this page, right? PDBs. PDBs, if you use GP, I think PDBs are familiar. This is how we define what has to be paid for an employee. So for example, on this one, the pay codes, you define all additions or salaries that an employee can possibly receive. So here now, you can define basic salaries, you can define all the allowances, all my telephone allowance, travel allowance, all that stuff that comes in on this page here. Right, you're able to define which pay period these are for, if it's a monthly allowance or weekly, if it's that basic wage for weekly people, etc. You can define which pay period is for. You can also define a pay factor. Pay factor represents a multiplier on that figure. So for your time and a half, your double time, your triple time, you can define that I want to multiply my basic wage by 1.5 to get time and a half. Yeah, so the pay factor is just a multiplier. Right, we have a couple flags over here, not subject to income tax, not subject to NIS. So if you want to use specific codes that should not trigger a specific calculation to happen, you can define that here. For whatever you need in your region, we can define that information here. In addition, if you need additional flags, so for example, this one here, NIB bonus payment. This is for Turks and Caicos, right? NIB, they have will not to get into tax law for NIB, fintechs and papers, but they have a specific field on the NIB form that requires that you define what is the bonus payment. So for them, we have developed another checkbox here so they can map that. And for you, we can do the same thing. If there's anything specific in your region, we can build it out within the application. Right, and let's talk about the posting groups. So if anyone who uses Business Central, you know what a posting group is? Yes, exactly. So on each pay code, each PDB, we can define what GL we want these transactions to go to, right? So if you segment your chart of accounts and you have your salaries expense, maybe you're tracking overtime separately, maybe you want all your allowances in a separate GL, you can define that. So I'm saying here on this pay code, whichever I think this is monthly salary, that I want to use these two GL accounts for the debit and the credit. Right, whenever it produces a debit, we'll see it go to this GL. If it produces a credit, we'll see it go over here. And you define a posting group on every individual pay code. Every individual code, I should say, sorry, not pay code alone. This is for deductions and benefits as well. Right. Yes, it's okay. So that was the pay codes. Ed, do we have any questions on the pay codes or on that setup for the positions?
No questions right now, but just a reminder to everyone, if you do have any questions, you could put them in the chat. Yeah?
Okay. All right, great. Excellent. Okay, so that was on the pay code groups. So we assign a pay code group to a position by default, right? And then when you assign this position to an employee, all of these codes that are here as default are inherited on that employee. Yeah, so let's go back to this employee here. So now on this page, employee positions, I am saying that this employee has this position, right? They're getting this amount, and the position started here from the 1st to the 30th of April. Right, so with this setup in place, allowing a start and end date on these positions, you're now able to assign multiple positions to an individual employee. So maybe this guy, during the day, he is a payroll lead. Maybe at night, he has a different role with you. Maybe you have shifts and they do different jobs at different points in the day. You can specify which position they held at a certain point in time. And this acts as a store of data, so you can see a history of the position changes for your employees, whether it was just a salary change or what is a whole new position they held, and for the time periods, you can see that store of information for each individual employee. Right, and of course, it would not be Business Central if we could not assign dimensions to everything. So we assign, you can have all of your dimensions come in. Your dimensions are your global and your shortcut, all could come in here for your data. And when this post to the GL, dimensions come with it, of course, right? Dimensions follow everything throughout the application to allow for the best reporting possible on the employee positions. Okay, so let's look at some other things with the employee. Oh no, I missed one point there. That very important field, currency code. So the currency code here, this means that we can rate this position in one currency, right? So this could be base currency, it could be a foreign currency, it could be any currency type. You can rate their payment in one currency, right? So let's just hold that point right there as we look at the deposits. So while you can rate the position in one currency, you can also pay the position in a different currency, right? So say they are rated in USD, but well, you know, Trinidad, we don't have any US, right? So you have to pay them in TTD. You can specify that while they are rated in US, you want the payment currency to be in TT dollars. And Business Central, of course, will handle that currency exchange, the gain and loss. It will handle that inside the application. You don't have to do anything extra. Once the currencies are set up, it will know the exchange rate and it will gain or loss accordingly. Right? So you can specify a currency code on both the position, what they rated at, as well as on the deposit, what they paid in. Yeah, just to separate that. Right, so more about deposits. Deposits, right, of course, we define every bank in the territory. We define the bank, all the branches, and you can specify which bank, which branch, etc. is used for a payment. This allows you we allow split payments. You can split payments based on a percentage. So you can say, I want 50% of my pay to go here. I want 25 to go here, etc., right? So we allow for full split payments. We allow for the multi-currency. We allow for, well, the ACH, as we showed earlier, the ACH transaction, as well as if you are printing checks, you have the option to mark them as print physical check, and they will have to print a check for them, right? Of course, all of these things are governed by approval, so everything must be approved before it can be made active, of course, as a security measure. Especially for people's pay, right? You want those deposits to be fully approved and checked before it's added to payroll. On the employee deposits. Let's how are we doing for time? We have 5 minutes again.
Yeah, you got on time. It's now 20 to
okay.
12.
It's not only the 12. All right, so let's
Yeah.
wrap up with some of the audit log stuff, right?
Yeah.
All
you
right,
go ahead.
so within the application, well, of course, we have a 30-minute demo today. If you want to see everything, you need to reach out, right? You need to reach out to us. But let's just show some of the other functions we have here. I'll just leave this as a little teaser. These are some of the other functions within the payroll application for that employee. Aside from the positions, allowances, speak to tax allowances. This will be a Trinidad thing. Deposits we saw. Statuses, this could be used in any region. Statuses speak to any type of extended leave that would affect NIS calculations. So maternity being the best example. When they go maternity, you can set this up and say that from, just choose it, maternity, you can say a start and end date, and you can say that for this start and end date period, I want to prevent the employee being deducted NIS. I could also say I want to prevent the employer being charged NIS as well. And well, we have flags for different regions here, but you can really customize this to set up for any type of leave that would affect any of those statutories. And of course, you're not limited to what's shown here. If it's region dependent, or if you would like another thing that comes up, we can include it as well. Let me just delete this line because I always forget. All right. Statuses, right? Dependence, not our region, employee loans, etc. We have a full loan module that can charge interest if you wish. We can charge one-time fees on loans. Employee aliases. All right. Greg would be upset if I didn't mention his aliases. So the aliases, if you use a time clock, if you use a time clock in your environment, I'm sure you know that your time clocks come either pre-configured or they come with their own set codes that you may have done in the past, right? Now, changing all those codes on a time clock, as I've seen with some clients, is a real pain. We don't want to have to go through changing the codes on the time clock to have it match the codes that we're creating for Business Central. Yeah. So what we can do is that we can tell Business Central that when it sees a strange code, to look at this table and see who it maps to. So I can map my codes from a time clock to my codes in Business Central. Yeah, so when it sees these specific codes from a time import, it knows, hey, test alias 2 is really this employee. And this can also be seen on the pay codes itself, because you will also need it for your pay codes. Let me just get back to that quickly and show that before we run out of time here, guys. Show this list. Went the long way. All right, so aliases as well. So you can define when those codes come in on a time clock, you can also do the same thing. You can define that those codes represent our Business Central code. So there's no need to have to go reconfigure time clocks, update time clocks with codes, change employees on that database. No, it's fine. We just make our changes here. Business Central will work with it. You don't have to redo anything. Right, okay, right. So I was getting back to the audit stuff. So let's look at our change log, one of our most proudest features, the change log. The change log shows all changes that occurred with an employee or with employee master data forever. Yeah, there's no limit to the time of this information. It doesn't expire. This is kept here as long as the employee is kept on the system. So what we track, change date and time, of course, when the change happened, employee number, who the change happened to, what is the change type? So if it was salary, position, deposit, allowance types, we track for everything, right? What field change? So in this example, we changed the monthly salary, and we can say the value before was nothing, and the value after was 31K. So it stores that, the value before and the value after for every change. Gives a nice little description here of what happened essentially, and of course we must log who did it, right? Must log who did it. So you have this employee change log that stays with you forever, keeps track of every change, so you can always see what someone has done, and then, query about that. So just about the employee change log. And now let's look at the payroll log before my 2 minutes are up. Payroll log. Right. So the payroll log. The payroll log works. It keeps similar to the employee change log. It keeps track of all the changes. The payroll change log does that. So for every time you open a batch, you delete a batch, you approve a batch, you lock a batch, any changes to a batch, it's logged here. So for persons concerned about, that audit log, that traceability, who did what, when, and why, we have a log of it here. This log now, this log is defined. We have it set to default 365 days, but of course you can modify that. You can increase it, you can decrease it. It's totally up to you, right? So this really stores all these steps that happened. As you can see, some testing was happening before with all these pay batches in line. Yeah, that's payroll log entries. Right, okay, so I do have a lot more to show, but I have a 30-minute window, and I believe our time is almost up. So I really encourage everyone, if you want to see BC Payroll, if you're really interested in the application, come ahead, book a demo with us for one-on-one, and we'll have a whole hour to go through all of the stuff that we could look at. But this is my time for today. Yeah. All right. So Mitzi, I'm gonna close the live session here. I think we can move on to the next point of the presentation, which is also me. All right, so me presenting
That's okay.
Teams. So why am I
Yeah.
waiting on Mitz? It's me.
It's okay. It's okay. It's exciting stuff. So you want to be able to show everybody exactly what
Yeah,
Davyn Payroll could do,
I know.
But
All
you
right, so
take your
back
time.
here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, slides up, right? You guys are seeing.
Yes, I'm seeing.
Yes. All right. So, okay. So we've seen the application just a little bit, just like a fraction of a micron. We saw the application, but let's see what happens once it goes live, right? So one team of accountable. The person who wrote the code and the people who implement it, it's one team. We fully support it. We're always available, right? It's not that we have to go to a third-party vendor to get anything sorted out. You have an issue with Davyn Business Central Payroll, you come to Davyn and we sort it out with you. Few moving parts, of course. It is one platform, right? One strong, robust platform of Business Central on Azure. It's one platform to license. You're already buying Business Central licenses. It's just to get a license for your payroll manager who needs to run the payroll and the application now. Come a month in, no longer you have to worry about why this journal wasn't posted, why you didn't export this from quote unquote those other payroll solutions and enter it into your GL. Why you didn't do this as yet? That doesn't happen anymore. The time you hit post, your journal is in, you're ready to do your bank rec, you're ready to close your month off, right? And finally, we have room to grow. As I said, up to this morning, I've been tested and implementing new changes with Captain Greg over here. And as we've been doing this, the application has moved from just payroll into a lot more, right? And we're not stopping. We're not stopping with the additions to the application. It's only going to keep growing, and your cost does not increase for all of the features that we add, right? This is just an added benefit to you. Yeah, so the application is fully extendable, fully expandable. We have whole overarching modules that just feed off of payroll information built by Davyn, and everything is controlled by us. And that is it. Thank you for your time. Thanks for your time, everyone. Any questions and stuff, please raise it in the chat. Please raise it with Ed. Ed in the chat will reach out to me with questions about the application. Licensing, sales is here. Talk to sales.
We do have a question from Romeo.
Mhm.
Yeah. What are the licensing options and any options to have it on premise?
Oh, on premise. So unfortunately, at this point in time, on premise, I don't believe it's an option. We can get some clarification on that from the dev team. But as far as I am aware, I don't believe on premise is an option. With respect to licensing, Mr. Phillips can answer questions with respect to licensing.
Hi. Yes. So the licensing is actually very simple.